Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Overland Journal podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Giordano, and we are coming to you from the field today in northern Spain with two very special guests. We have Enrique and Eva from Ibérica Overland. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Welcome. And it's so fun to be here in Spain talking to you about overlanding.
It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Awesome. So you have a YouTube channel and you've been contributors to Overland Journal and Expedition Portal. So there are a few articles out there with your names on them.
Yeah.
But tell me a little bit more about yourselves and how you got into overland travel.
This is you, definitely.
Well, I will start there. I always been in 4x4s and off-road since I think I had dry license. My first car ever was a Suzuki Samurai. So as soon as I got my license, like next week I got a Samurai.
Nice.
And I was already on the dirt. So it's really what I always wanted. I was like,
are those pretty popular in Spain?
Yeah,
I've seen them everywhere.
They are everywhere. There's like a very cheap car where, everybody gets for just moving around the small trails and going to farms and stuff like that. And so I always been like into dirt, like motorbikes, dirt bikes, and always been in the off-road community and doing trips. But I think it was more like when I got my first Jeep and I started to be interested on traveling with the Jeep, and also like to make my own meals and sleeping in the car and all that out of necessity because I'm a photographer, filmmaker. So it was the way to get out there, get remote, because I do mostly landscape and nature, and being able to access places, otherwise would be impossible with gear and all that. And, it was like a perfect combination. So you can access to the places, you can sleep in the car, being there at the right time, the right light. So that's pretty much how I started switching more from the off-road to the overland.
Nice. Were you based in Madrid at the time, or were you somewhere else that you were starting from?
Yeah, I was living in Madrid then when I got this second-hand Grand Cherokee. And I just threw a mat, like one of those inflatable mattresses, and small fridge on the side, and camping gas, and jet oil, and then I went to the Alps for 2 months and just like, I was hooked. It's like, okay, this is it.
Wow.
Just sleeping in the back of the Jeep with nothing but just a piece of wood and a mattress and small fridge. And not even one of the good ones, just like one of those, that drain your battery because I didn't have a second battery or anything. And that was it, It's just during the trip, I remember buying a solar panel and putting it with zip ties on the roof rack. So it was okay, this is it.
Awesome. And how about you, Eva?
When we started living together, Enrique already had the Jeep Grand Cherokee. I used to travel as a backpacker, so I was already really interested in seeing the world and in like maybe slightly weird ways. So after my first trip with him, I was also hooked, and I was more than excited to start traveling in a way that is maybe slower and a bit more comfortable than what I was used to. So that's how we actually, and then we got the dog. So then that was another reason to
don't take planes anymore.
Yeah, to stop taking planes and to switch to car-based travel where we could make our own meals and move at our own rhythm, prepare our own meals and sleep, well, preferably in nature.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And you met while traveling, right?
Yes. We met in Iceland, but we met a long time ago. We met in Iceland in 2009 and we just met, but we kept in touch. And then 8 years later, so in 2017, we were kind of like maybe looking for an excuse of like, we were trying to find a thing to do together. So we would have an excuse to meet up again.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Belgrade at the time, and Enrique was living already in Madrid. So he spent 3 years living in Iceland, then he moved back to Spain. And so we came up with, let's call it a small project. That's what my upcoming article in Overland Journal is about, actually. So we came up with the idea to visit these peculiar monuments to we call it in the region, we call it the revolution. So actually the struggle in the Second World War all over the Balkans. So the 7 countries that used to be they used to be Yugoslavia. These monuments are really like they're very many in numbers, and they are very peculiar in aspect. They're usually very abstract, and you can't tell from them what are they supposed to represent, which is a big contrast to the typical. So Yugoslavia was a communist country, but that's a very big contrast to the typical Soviet art from the time. That is very realistic. It usually has like human figures that are like realistic in an idealistic way. Well, Yugoslavian art is different. It is very abstract. And these monuments are, or at least like the biggest and the most impressive, most important ones, are usually in like battle sites all over Yugoslavia. So these places are remote, usually in the mountains. Very often you do need a 4x4 to get close to them. So this has actually been 3 different trips, and there for sure are going to be more to come around the Balkans, where we just like drove there with our car and then explored this part of the history of the region.
Not only the monuments, but the areas around, because as you say, like they are based where the battles took place.
Yeah.
So just they are in the middle of a hill sometimes. So it's very cool to explore the area at the same time, not just go to see the monument.
Nice.
Yeah, and the road takes you, or the trail takes you to places that are vastly unknown to locals and to tourists alike. The communist history in Yugoslavia is a bit forgotten. So since we have had the Balkan Wars in the 90s, and then every country has had its own transition to a capitalist democratic society. And we don't like to think or talk about it much. So to us, to local people from the Balkans, usually these monuments, as well as the stories connected to them, are not very interesting. We don't know much about them. So for me as a local, it was also amazing to travel with a foreigner and discover this part of my own history that I didn't pay much attention to before.
So there's a message behind each of these monuments.
Yes. Every one of them has, like, it commemorates a certain event or a certain battle or a certain site where something important happened. But all of them tend to have like positive futuristic messages hidden more or less within them. So they send like this message about the positive future that we are going to have as like united peoples of Yugoslavia, which is a nice message to see nowadays as well.
Yeah. Could you describe what a few of these structures look like so people can get a sense of?
Okay, I can
they're
try.
very different, right?
Yes, they're very. Usually, this was like it was a big monument building movement activity in the country of Yugoslavia in its golden years, especially in the 70s. So they would look like
very futuristic in a way, but like dystopian in a dystopian way. Mm-hmm. Also, the fact that they are in the middle of a hill or a forest. So they make them very dystopian. So you arrive there and it's like a huge piece of rock with immense and with an abstract shape, like a spaceship. And it's just landing there.
That is a good description.
And it's just landing there. And then you look at it, it's like, what is this doing here?
Yeah, so
it's
they're
not
often
in the middle of the town. Like we put the monuments here to commemorate something that happened in that hill, like 10 kilometers away. They put where the people die in those battles. So it is amazing to see those spaceships made of stone in the middle of a hill.
So very often, some of them we visited at night. So the typical view would be you're driving in complete darkness on a trail, like through a forest. There's, you could see, sometimes we would see wild animals, like we would see deer on the trail. And then suddenly your car lights would hit like this huge concrete structure that is like completely abstract. And one thing that makes it really dystopian is the fact that they're not taken care of really well. So all of them are, you can see that they're old and forgotten.
Broken. Some of them
are broken. Yeah.
And also they're not like a fence, like in a way like, oh, this is a monument. There's none of this is just here. So you arrive and it's just there in the middle of a forest with sometimes no sign, no anything. So if you don't know, they just let you there that you don't even know what to think about it, you know?
Wow.
And the reason why we sometimes went at night is because I wanted to shoot time lapse with the stars behind or, you know, stuff like that. So we encountered some funny situations like police stopping us in Bosnia. Like, what are you doing here in the middle of a forest? And then are they boarding like with the Spanish guy, like next to the monument, the Second World War? It's like, I don't know. That was fun.
Yeah. We've had some peculiar situations, definitely.
Yeah.
And how many are there out there? Do you know?
An estimation is around 60 or 70,000. Yeah, not all of them are that big or that impressive. It's like all kinds
of... in the hundreds, the big ones?
Yeah, in the hundreds, definitely. Then there have been a lot of big and impressive and important ones that have been destroyed in the Balkan Wars, as they were, and they continue to be seen by the people as symbols of the old communist state. So as the wars were independence wars from that, as several of the now existing countries wanted independence from Yugoslavia, the monuments were destroyed as symbols of the country they were leaving, which is a shame.
Yeah, because I think what maybe it would be hard to understand, or people that don't know, is like, in the contrary, there are no monuments as communist monuments like celebrating communism. It's quite the opposite, that they are like remembering battles against the Nazis during the war. So they are not like communists in that sense, you know, monuments. Yeah,
maybe when we say like communist monuments, we imagine like statues of dictators who've committed genocide. It is not that. It is definitely not that. Yugoslavia was occupied by Nazi Germany in 1941. And after that, the resistance to the German regime was organized by the people. And a lot of them were like just regular farmers or workers, and a lot of them died trying to liberate their country from fascism. So the monuments are usually to them,
right,
more than to like communist leaders.
Gotcha.
It's just now communism has such a bad connotation. Well, from the 50s, I think.
Right. That's,
Yeah.
There's a specific term for the collective of monuments. Right.
Yeah, the monuments have started gaining popularity with foreigners, mostly in the last 10 years, maybe. So the term that we use is spomeniks. Spomenik is a word in all the languages of the Balkans that just means monument. But if you say it like that, then to foreign ears, it will mean one thing. And this is, yes. And it is these.
A word that is being adopted, you know, to use specifically these kind of monuments.
Yeah.
So you have a really great article in the winter 2023 issue of Overland Journal, and it has photos of what these look like and descriptions and locations of, they're all in a bunch of different Balkan countries. So people can find them or read more about the history behind them and your journey. 3 trips to the area to discover these monuments. It's very cool.
Yeah, some of them we went twice because, you know, we wanted to shoot them properly, or now with the drone, or
different seasons.
So, you know, we realized also like they will look even more dystopian in the winter.
Yeah.
You know, because you go to the summer, maybe, you know, Balkans, they are like any other countries. They're normal, like forest, and look pretty and colorful. And that wasn't looking, you know, how I wanted. So like, okay, we had to go in the winter. So we took the car this time, the Ford Ranger that we have with a rooftop tent. And we went in the middle of the winter, and we were visiting some other monuments, camping in the snow, like below zero, under the snow, and it was great. It was a right decision. We got the last 2 times that we went was winter, right? the footage is much better, I think.
Awesome.
It just fits, the atmosphere.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. I look forward to seeing that in print. And
Thank you.
Yeah. Very, very cool. I love the concept of doing an overland trip that's linking together. It's like a scavenger hunt with history involved and very different. So very interesting. Give me an idea a bit about your backgrounds, because you're talking about photo and video, and I know that you, Enrique, have a bit of a background in photo and video, and you as well.
I've been a photographer and filmmaker for almost my entire career or life. So first I started as a photographer, and then I moved to documentary filmmaking, and then I specialized more on travel and time-lapse, specifically doing stock footage or creating time-lapse for advertising, big companies, sometimes for Sony or brands like that. And it was great. It took me to a lot of countries. So I'm traveling a lot, getting nice footage, travel footage from all over the world. That's how I kind of got so addicted to this traveling thing, and I loved it. But at some point I was kind of tired of planes so that's why I think I really like Overland so much. It's just different pace, different way of traveling. It allows you to get better footage in a way, because you're traveling slower and always have as much gear as you want in the car, not struggling in the planes. That's when a few years ago we started doing Overland. Then we created the YouTube channel, kind of like out of necessity, because we were bored. We were so bored because of COVID, so we couldn't travel. And then it's like, what are we going to do? I don't know. Let's just do a YouTube channel, do some videos here.
Yeah, it was kind of hard. We both at that point, when COVID hit, we had careers in travel, filmmaking, and then suddenly we weren't allowed to leave our home. So we spent the first 2 weeks of the shutdown just like refreshing news, like just without just panicking and without thinking, COVID cases in the US, COVID cases in Spain, COVID cases in Serbia, just numbers. And then we realized we had to find something to do. And the thing we found was the YouTube channel. So it was just it gave us a thing to shoot, gave us a thing to think about, to research a bit. We had no idea how to do it well, and what does it take to create a successful YouTube channel.
I was in a very specific niche, I know a lot of filmmaking, but just of these, then the YouTube channel, you realize you had to do 100 different jobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And see, that's kind of the other 99. I think I will skip that. Maybe you can tell your background.
Sure. Yeah. Well, I am a political scientist. I am really not at least I wasn't a professional filmmaker before meeting Enrique. But I used to work in education, and then we discovered the monuments in the Balkans, and then everything changed slowly for me. So we started working together, and I think we make a good team because we're good at different things. He's really, really good at the creative part of it. All right. So let's say he's good at images and I'm good at words. So we've been working together in this for a while and traveling together for a while. So we also now, with the new company, we have split roles, and maybe you can tell us more about that.
The last years, we were actually seeing that the market is getting difficult on the image or in the media part. As you know, everything is changing with artificial intelligence, with the democratization of images and all of that. I think our job as filmmakers and photographers is getting harder and harder. So it was good to have the YouTube channel because it allowed us to experiment, to try different things, So we kind of started to invest more time on the YouTube channel than on the stock footage and the traveling. And we realized that we really like it because it's let us explore the world in a different way, not just looking for the images, but, also looking for the adventure, the travel, the driving, learning new skills like off-road, or I don't know, just like so many other things that you get to learn when you are doing Overland, not just like shooting.
Yes.
So we really invested more time, and then we started to focus more on the Ibérica Overland kind of company than in the filmmaking. So that took us to a different path where we spent a lot of time traveling with the car, and we needed a better setup. So far we had a rooftop tent. It was fine, but then because we like to make very trips in to cold weather places and like Scandinavia or the Balkans.
Balance up that the Madrid heat and the desert lakes.
Exactly. we are not we don't like actually the heat here in Spain, so we always tend to drive north.
Yes.
So we end up in very like bad weather situations. So we really needed a setup where we can have some space to work inside, to get refuge when it's really bad weather. So we decided that the best compromise was to have like a canopy setup, like or like a wedge camper that you call it there, I think.
Yep, wedge camper, yeah.
So we were looking for options, and then here there's like, we cannot import anything from the States. It would be very, very expensive. And at that point, there was only like one option, and it was like out of our budget. It's just too expensive for us.
And this was for your Ford Ranger?
Yeah.
Yeah. What year is it?
We have a 2016 extra car for Ranger.
Great.
And diesel 2.2. So it's something that you don't get there, I think.
No.
Yeah. And yeah, it's working fine. We're very happy with it. It's been working great for like 70,000 kilometers. Yeah, so we needed one of these, and then we couldn't afford it, which at the end it was actually good, because we decided, okay, let's just build it ourselves. It shouldn't be that difficult. Ended up being difficult. We needed a lot of help. It took us a while, but I'm kind of quite perfectionist, so I wanted to make everything perfect, not just like, because I do it in my garage, it's just gonna just throw some metal and let's go. So
how did you even start? Like, how did you know? You don't have an engineering background, so like, what was the first? How did you know which materials or what the design would be like, or how it would go together?
That's a lot of hours on YouTube.
Yeah,
you can really make everything you want if you spend enough hours on YouTube. Really, like absolutely everything you want.
A lot of time watching videos on YouTube, and when you hear that, your first instinct is to think this is like really lost time, but it's always like gets deep into learning like practical skills, and many amazing things have come out of his many hours on YouTube, which I find really impressive.
Changing injectors and Jeep and stuff like that.
Yeah, because like the time I spend online is rarely that productive.
Well, you learn like different skills. Like her thing is languages.
Yeah.
She's always like the same hours that I spend on YouTube, she spend on Duolingo.
Yeah.
And now we can go almost everywhere, because she will just pull some German, some French or whatever. So that's good. Apart from the English, Russian, Serbian, Spanish that she speaks already.
Yeah.
Impressive.
So,
so you can travel in comfort and communicate. I love
exactly.
it.
I'm the communication officer.
You will now be coming with us. And you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a photographer that didn't know how to change the oil of the car.
Yeah.
And then ended up changing injectors and fuel pumps. Just spend enough hours on YouTube. And I ended up making videos for our channel explaining how to change injectors or the differential, because I've done it, not because I'm very smart or because I learned how to study. It's like, if you've done it before, you can show the people how to do it.
Right.
That was it. Like, and then I started putting it on videos. People was asking me on WhatsApp, like, hey, what injector you put here? What you used? It's like,
they still do it. It's been years, but they still do it.
And then it's like, it was easier. Okay, I'm going to make a video showing how I do it. And then every time somebody asks me, I'm just going to send them the link. And,
perfect.
It just escalated. That's how everything started to grow. And then we got quite a big following in a way. I mean, not too big, but
for Spain
decent.
It is. Yeah.
Nice.
For the niche that we have, I think we have a good following.
Yeah. So like about the camper. So we decided to build it, and then just spend a bunch of hours learning about materials and design and how I want it. And I had a very clear idea of what I wanted and what we need. which is important. And then I did the design. I learned with the SketchUp how to do 3D design, the basic, to design the structure that I wanted. And then when I went to a friend and asked him, like, I said, like, yeah, I want to do this. Can you weld it? I don't know how to weld. Like, it's not that, that good. And then he welded the structure, and then started building from there.
Nice.
And then all these like snowballed into the canopy ended up looking so good that then people started contacting us saying like, hey, are you going to make more? Hey, can you do one for me? Are you going to sell them? Like, because there's nothing here. In Spain, there's only one brand that comes from, and then it's very expensive. So we said like, why not? We've done one, we can do more. Yeah, so we just already delivered 2 campers.
So we started a company some months ago, and now we make canopy campers here in the north of Spain.
Handmade.
Incredible.
Yeah.
What were the priorities that you had at the beginning when you were thinking about the important things for you that you wanted to have included, or the materials you had to have, or what were the things you must include?
I think the main thing was that it has to be light. I think the biggest mistake you can make is to want to have everything, because that is like, even if they give it to you, here's everything, for free, it's going to be very heavy. So the first thing, we had to design something that is very light. Also, that to me was very important, that follow the lines on the track, that doesn't look like a box that just fell on your truck. So it has to have a design. I'm very like design oriented. So to me, it was super important that follow the lines, and it's compact, because Spain is not the States, and here the trails are very narrow, and you cannot have a box sticking out of your sides.
Mm-hmm.
So have to follow that. Of course, that means you're not going to have a queen, I don't know, you call it queen side bed or a king side bed.
Yes.
Maybe it's not that big, but we are not that big either. So that's maybe the downside. It's not as big as other maybe setups, but it means that we have space inside and
flexibility
to go everywhere as we were going before with the tent. So actually, right now, I think even with the canopy is even lower than it was with the rack and a tent.
Perfect.
Yeah, and then also one of the priorities, we had to make it comfortable. And I remember when we left for our first trip, so we went to Germany and Czechia this summer with the canopy camper, we actually had a level of comfort that was very close to what we have at home. So we knew we've done enough long trips to know exactly what we need to be able to sustain ourselves on a trip that is like several months long. So we knew that we needed a good mattress, a good fabric for the tent on the canopy camper, for example. We had to make it completely waterproof, things like that. So a lot of the small details on it come from our personal experience and the things that we value as super important on a longer trip.
When you built the prototype, what were some things you learned from that prototype that you would change or had changed?
So much. It's just like, it's totally different right now in a way. Like the design basically is the same, but we improved almost every part. When you start like using it, you realize like, okay, this hinge doesn't work well. Now this lock also, we have to improve this and here and there. The fabric cannot, like the window cannot open this way, it has to open the other way.
Yeah, for example, we made the windows really big because it looked really good in photos. And we still think it's super photogenic, but then looking at the experience, the windows needed to be a bit smaller. So, for example, that is a thing that we changed about it.
You always want the windows to be bigger, though. Isn't that a thing?
But then the rest of the fabric, when you open it, there is this just floppy because there's nothing to sustain
then it doesn't have enough light.
Because you want to feel like you're outside when it's nice, or you want to see the view.
But something that improved in that situation, in that sense, what we did is we realized like if it's raining, then you close the windows and then you're in total darkness inside.
Yeah.
So we did the front window now is transparent. That way, like even if it's raining, you don't close the second layer, you have light, you're inside with, good light.
Yes.
So the whole process it's been really exciting and really interesting because every day we both learn something new. We both don't have a background in this. So it's, of course, we've made so many changes, and I'm certain we're going to make so many more, because we're just like, we're learning about it. And that's the nice part. That's the part that we enjoy the most.
Fun.
Yeah, I think that's the best. Like every day come here to solve problems, because that means that you have to make an effort. You have to find a solution for something. So you have to read about all of that, learn, like maybe watch on YouTube videos again and find solution for problems. Like I'm always like, with my iPad, so I have to, I can just draw something and wherever I go and have ideas how to improve or find different parts. And it's a challenge, because first, we're not engineers. Second, we don't have an investment firm, to back us up or anything. Yeah. So we have to put everything from our pockets and just create this that may or may not have a future. We don't know. But
I think it will.
We'll see.
I have faith.
Sweet. Well, I wish you best of luck with all of that.
Thank you very much.
Sounds very exciting. And I love the world, your real world experience and what you are looking for in a product you're creating. So that's pretty cool.
Thank you.
So so you're obviously you've taken this camper canopy outside of Spain, but you're also using it within Spain as a proving ground.
Yes.
I want to talk a little bit about Spain, because out of all of us here, you know the most about Spain, and you can probably give the best guidance to somebody if they want to come to the area to do a trip. Maybe an overland trip, who knows? Let's talk about if somebody hasn't been to Spain before. This is one thing that I really tried to understand, the organization of the country in terms of regions. Different regions have different things to offer, just like, Canada or the US or the UK or whatever. But yeah, just understanding the different regions maybe and breaking those down a little bit, and what kind of landscapes or offerings or history they have behind them.
I think even if I am the Spanish one here, she's the political scientist. So I think it's better if she explains the system, and then I explain you more about the landscape.
So Spain is divided in 17 autonomous communities. These are not exactly like states in Canada or the United States, but they are similar. They have their own governments. More or less, they have their own culture or their particular characteristics, and very often they have their own unique landscape.
And language.
Very often the language, there are 4 co-official languages apart from Spanish in Spain.
Wow.
Yeah.
Plus not official, that many communities also have.
Yeah, like dialects that border on being a separate language.
But then there's regions that we can talk about, like what I was explaining before with the map.
Yes.
That is like the north coast is kind of like what you will understand about Scotland or similar. And then there is the center that is more like what could be, for example, California or
like Nevada or Utah.
And then there is the center that could be more like the Southwest. And then we have the South, which is really more like almost like a desert area. It's just much hotter, and the proximity to Africa make it.
As a foreigner in Spain, I would say that, and in my experience, other foreigners very often have this very simplistic image of Spain, that all of Spain is the sun, the beach, flamenco, some typical foods, and
some bullfighting,
some
sangria,
absolutely,
some paella, which
and that is
it's always hot.
It's always hot. There's parties at the beach and
Ibiza.
Yeah, exactly. And I've found since moving here that Spain is so much more. There's all of that. Like if you're looking for the typical Spanish experience in this sense, you will find it. It is not hard to find, but there is so much more. There is so much culture here. There are so many different cultural things to discover beyond bullfighting in Spain. Yeah. And then the landscape is so diverse. I've been living here for 6 years now, and I'm far from being tired of visiting different parts of Spain, and all of them are so diverse and beautiful.
Even though you say like they are not like the 17 communities are not totally different, but they are in a way. Like you will see when you travel, you will see you don't need to look like in what community that you are. you will see like the landscape is different, the culture, the architecture, you will see it changing. And that's what is amazing. You drive 2 hours and you're in a totally different place. Here in the north, everything is green, everything is like more like forest and wet. And then you drive 2 hours to 3 hours south, and you're in a different comunidad in Castilla y León, and it's more dry, more mountaineer, and it's just incredible how much the language change, the accent, everything changes.
Yeah, you will find exactly what we talked about before on your travels in South America, how when you move from one country to another, the Spanish changes. It does the same within Spain in different communities. And I'm really curious to hear, after your time in Spain, what was the hardest dialect for you to understand? I'm so curious about that.
Spanish, no. Period, no.
Yeah, you don't understand for somebody from the States or anyone else come and don't understand Spanish. For them, everything is going to be Spanish. But that you already know some Spanish, you can tell the different. Like, okay, this is not the Spanish that the same than they were talking in the other comunidad. This is different, the accent, the pace, the tone, everything changes.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of this country, that is like having 17 different countries in one, in a way. And that's great. Like, people think everything is the same, but that's because they only go to the surface, of the country. But if you start like investing more time and traveling for longer and learning more, you realize how different it is.
I think when I was researching Spain, where we had just arrived in Spain, I was like, felt a bit, not bombarded, but I was getting all of these different terms thrown at me in travel guides and stuff like that about the Asturias or probably pronouncing that wrong, or some other area like Pyrenees or Navarra or some other regions, but I didn't really understand like where they were, I guess, or where do they begin and end, or what are some examples of names of those communities that you would say people should look out for? And maybe like just not all 17, but a few in the north, maybe some in the middle and the south. So just a few different terms, maybe.
I guess what everybody knows out of Spain is like Madrid, Barcelona, because the football clubs.
Right.
For example.
Yeah, the big cities.
Okay, Madrid is one of those cities that has the same name as the comunidad.
Okay.
There's only one. But for example, Barcelona is a city that is in Catalonia.
That one I've heard a lot of.
Catalonia is the one that won independence. Catalonia is like the California of states.
Okay.
One of the independent. Barcelona is in Catalonia, and then, for example, like Bilbao is in the Basque Country. Many people hear Basque Country, but Bilbao is one of the cities. There is Vizcaya, there is, those cities. So there's cities, and then there is the capital of the comunidad, which is, in that case. So I don't know, and people might know also Sevilla.
Yes.
Sevilla, Granada, those are in the south. And they all are part from Andalusia.
Andalusia,
which is
Andalusia,
Andalusia, and Andalus is like the
so that is
part.
maybe the place that people, apart from maybe the beaches, which would be in the Mediterranean coast, when people think about the typical Spanish culture, it will be the very south.
I think that was a good way of breaking it down, though, because most people will be familiar with the names of a lot of the bigger cities, and then to give an idea of like a regional span is always helpful. So that just helped me a lot for sure, because even in the north, so what are we in now?
We are in Asturias. So this is very north of Spain at the Atlantic coast. There are 4 communities in this belt. So it is the Basque Country, then Cantabria, Asturias, and Galicia. These 4.
And then each of those, this may be wrong, I'm not sure, you can correct me, they all have their own kind of food culture associated with each one. And then you were saying regional like language differences. Yeah,
they would have some similarities, like maybe the dialects or the languages are going to be similar because they share borders. Food is going to be largely connected to the ocean, so it's going to be a lot of seafood. But yeah, every region is going to have its own peculiarities that make it different.
For example, here in Asturias, they have like a dialect that most people talk that way, but they also have like an old language that it's called Bable that they used to talk in the past. They are not using anymore. But it's totally different than Galicia. In Galicia, they speak Gallego, which is more similar to Portuguese. It's like a mix of Portuguese and Spanish.
Portuguese and Spanish are already quite similar, so the Galician language would be like exactly in the middle.
So we understand them.
Yeah.
But it's just different. Like you can understand easily from Spanish to Gallego.
Yeah, and the regional language here, which is called Asturiano or Bable, is a very peculiar one because it's not a standardized language. So if you would write in it today, there is no right and wrong way to spell things, for example. there is no standard for it. So one town would write it in one way or say it, call one thing in one way and then the next town in another way.
Right.
It has seen, it is seeing a renaissance right now. So more and more young people are interested in it. So there is more and more touristic organizations and events for tourists done in this, because it can be understood by a Spanish speaker. So more and more people are interested in preserving it, which I think is amazing. And some years back, it finally got there is a university degree in it. Finally.
Oh, wow.
So it is a big part of the regional history that I'm so glad to see.
Nice.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty of this country, that they're so diverse. I mean, there is not only one country. It is kind of in a way of 17,
Yeah.
And that's great. Like the fact that you can go to another part of the country and don't understand what the guy is saying to you, it's just kind of amazing.
Yeah, you were saying that although you speak Spanish, you may not understand 100% of what somebody else is saying in another
just
part.
because the accent. But if you go to the Basque country, they talk to totally different language that nobody can understand but them. It's not similar to anything. Yeah,
so the other co-official languages are kind of similar to, their Latin roots and then to the Spanish language. But the Basque language is just something else. It is not related to any existing language on the planet.
Wow.
So it's just an island. They just speak it there and that's it. It is very peculiar and they're also putting a lot of effort into preserving it. I just think that is wonderful.
Yeah. For planning purposes, I'm always thinking about planning and where am I in the world and what are the things that are offered in the area. And so for folks that are listening to the podcast and want to go to Spain, and this sounds so obvious, but it's figure out what of the 17 communities you're in, say it's the Basque community you're in. Yeah. That will help your search term if you're Googling or YouTubing for research purposes. And it will also help if you're looking up the region specifically in your travel guide or even on your map. And then you can get an understanding of the culture and the food and the language. That's great.
Yeah.
I know it sounds so obvious, but when I got here, I was confused as to where I was and what was happening and where is Basque country and what's happening,
But that's the great thing. You never get bored here.
Yeah.
And there's thing for everybody. Yeah. It's you like the beach, okay, go east. You just like to be and have parties and stuff, go to Marbella or Ibiza and all that everybody knows. But you like the mountain, and we have huge mountains in the Pyrenees. I don't know, you like deserts. Here we have in the south, the only deserts in Europe. I don't know, just whatever you like, there are the stuff here. Maybe we don't have the Rocky Mountains, maybe we don't have the Grand Canyon. But it's a bit of everything in a small country is great. And for traveling around, and it's really relaxed and a lot of empty space in a way, empty meaning free space. It's not tight. It's not like being in I don't know, in Belgium or being in, I don't know, in the Netherlands that you can barely touch some dust. I mean, here there is a bunch of trails that you can hit. So
big landscapes. Yeah. You were saying you don't have the Rocky Mountains, but there's some serious mountains here.
Oh, yes.
Very serious, very steep.
You show some.
Yeah. The Picos de Europa.
Yeah.
Definitely a very beautiful place in the northern part of Spain that, very difficult hiking, but also really, I think, attainable hiking for everyone here as well, which is great. Richard and I have been here for 2 weeks and we came on the boat from the UK to Santander. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. been finding there are some things that are very different from the UK and some things are very different from Canada and the US. And it's been really nice to be driving on the right-hand side of the road again.
Yeah.
The right one.
The right-hand side.
The right,
Yeah.
right.
We're finding the highways and a lot of the roads are wider, which is nice for our Toyota Tundra. We're also noticing that laundry has been a lot easier to access here. There have been some very easy places. But everything's automatic.
Yeah.
So you just
put some coins
pay and soap's already going in by itself and it's not expensive.
Right.
Yeah.
The showers.
The showers, I found a €1 shower at
or gas
a
stations.
gym.
Some gas stations are for truckers, and you can just pay €3. That's what we do lately.
Yeah.
We used to go to campgrounds like every maybe third day or something like that, but then you realize we just hated to be surrounded by people, even if it's just for a summer.
Yeah, campgrounds here are different to what you have in North America.
It's like a caravan.
It's like
caravan
a trailer,
camps.
It is just like a place to park.
Right.
A lot of people come with families. There's always like a lot of children running around, so it's not like a peaceful escapade in the woods. It is going to be noisy. It is going to be like a low-cost hotel very often. So it is different. We prefer wild camping whenever we can. So we try to avoid
and then
those.
when we need a shower, then we just look for a gas station.
Yeah.
There's some apps of gas stations that they actually tell like which one.
Yeah,
have
the big gas station chains have usually an app or a way to search on their website which gas stations near you have shower facilities. Yeah.
Great tip.
Usually they are quite okay, quite clean, because not many people use them. So it's quite good finding.
Love it. Tell me more about wild camping in Spain, because I know in certain areas it's prohibited.
Yeah.
That is $1 million question.
It is. That's something that we usually don't discuss much because it's very controversial. By default, if you read carefully the law, it is not allowed to wild camp. Now, if you have a rig like yours or like something similar, it is very hard to determine if you are really camping or you just stop there.
Parking is okay.
Parking,
Okay.
So then there is like with the vans or with the RVs, it is also like difficult and different because they have the legal status of those vehicles are like more homes, like they're homes. So they have a different regulation. So they cannot apply that regulation to yours because yours is a truck. So, or it's a car.
Yeah.
If it's a car, you can just say like, I just park here and I'm just chilling in my car.
Okay.
So,
and then there are parking lots.
Yeah.
Specifically, if you're in a pinch or if you have a motor home where you can legally park if it doesn't look like you're camping. So no awnings out, no windows open, and those are fine.
Those are fine. But then we don't like to do that, right? We don't like to go to we like to be in nature. Then by default, if you read carefully the law, it's kind of camping, but it's not. Why? Because okay, what are you doing there, first of all, if not camping, just at night? You're just you can say, I'm not even sleeping, I just park here. So it is kind of a limbo.
Tricky,
It is kind of a limbo. So it is usually nothing happens because there's nobody there to enforce that gray law.
Right.
Yeah, we do have this confusion also because there is a lack of controls. So we've never ran into any officer who could tell us, hey, what you're doing is illegal.
Who is going to tell you 5 a.m. in the middle of a forest that, this is not legal. Sometimes happened a couple of times that we slept a bit late and then, somebody like we call it park ranger or something, but not park ranger because it's not in a park. In a park, like a natural park, national park, it is totally forbidden.
Yeah.
We never do it there.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's for sure. But we were just in a hill, and then a guy from the municipality or whatever came. It's like, hey, what are you doing, guys? It's like, I just came to take some pictures. It's, oh, nice. Oh, beautiful truck.
Right.
That's it. You're not doing anything wrong, really.
Self-contained, pick everything up.
Exactly.
Obviously, be self-contained.
Don't
be really careful with.
So that's why, for example, now we are going to move to induction cooking.
Yeah.
We don't want to have any gas, any fire in the truck. So we want to cook with electricity, don't have anything, because it's true that if you are in all of these areas, in the summer, sometimes it's totally forbidden to even drive through the trails because of a hazard of fire. And for sure, it's forbidden to make fire. Yeah. But that also includes using a gas stove.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That is because it's also fire.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, then now we just got an induction cook, and then we're also gonna cook with induction, which is like no heat at all. Following the normal, like common sense laws, I think it's a very relaxed country. People like to complain a lot here, like everything's forbidden. No, it's not. You haven't been in Germany. You haven't been in Netherlands. Just like everything is forbidden. Like everything is hard. Even if it's not like if nobody see you want to do it legally. It is hard to do it. It's hard to find an open trail.
Right.
Yeah.
Here it's not like maybe you shouldn't go that trail, but it's allowed. It's easier to access. So.
Yeah. Tell me more about the trails here, because there are established off pavement trails throughout the country. Are there any specific rules behind those, or curious about those
that's
as
the
well?
$1 million question. That also changes a lot depending on the community.
Yeah, this is where the community division becomes important, because if this is what every community decides. So for example, in Madrid, any kind of off-road driving is explicitly forbidden, and you will see that all trails are going to be just closed off. For example.
Either with a chain or they're going to have a sign.
They're going to have a sign, and that's it.
There's no way you cannot find dirt without a sign. So nothing. Then you go to other communities, like in the center, that is more allowed. It's more open. There's no problem. And I think also it depends on like how many people live there. Of course, there's like 6 million people living in Madrid in a small community. You cannot have the open trails. It's just not possible. People would just ruin everything. It's like having next to Vancouver, having like some trails there, like open for the public. I think they would just get ruined. And then you have another open areas, very low density and population, where nobody cares if you go there, because first of all, nobody goes. And second, if you go, like nobody is going to care that you drive your car through trail, because mostly are used for farming and livestock and all of that. So you're driving with a pickup there, just one more. That's right.
Right.
Yeah. What happens in Spain is what happens, I guess, everywhere, is that some places become famous, become like internet famous, and then become massified. So then the rules become more restrictive in those places. So there are certain parts of Spain where wild camping or off-road driving is harder and illegal. But this is the beauty of Spain. It has so many beautiful corners that are quite accessible, where you can get lost for days and days on end without any problems. Just maybe don't expect to be able to sleep on the beach at absolutely every spot. Absolutely.
Fair point.
And that's the problem, that the most people complaints are like, oh, I got a fine for sleeping here. It's like, where were you? It's like they were like by the beach. Like they want to sleep with the window open and just jump into the water. It's just
maybe another important point to mention, that especially during the pandemic years, the first 2 years of the pandemic, there have been growing tensions and several conflicts between especially van lifers, so people traveling in vans, and local communities in certain beach towns. In those towns, people live out of tourism, and they feel like van lifers in particular, but this applies to some overlanders as well, don't really contribute to the economy of the town. And just like they take all the space, they leave all their trash. And so in certain popular places, vehicle-based travel is not viewed as something positive. This is maybe a thing to have in mind. So it is always good to be friendly and mindful and respectful towards the local population and to the nature, especially to the beaches, as they are Spain's most popular locations.
Yeah, but that's only happened if you realize, like, summertime around the coast.
I was going to say, so I could see how like some of the parking lots or beach parking lots would get really, really full. And then a local comes by and is like, I want to surf. There are no parking spots because we're all there parking overland, traveling through. And we're like, cool, this looks like a great spot. But now nobody can actually find parking who lives there,
But it's so funny because we have such a huge amount of territory in a way. Of course, it's not as big as the States, but it's huge. There's so many beaches, and sometimes we happen that we go somewhere and there's like plenty of room. There's nobody there. Right. It's just that everybody wants to go to the famous ones.
Yeah.
Especially like in the east and south of Spain, like the warm to be, the warm. And here you can probably camp in any beach now you want, and there's not going to be anybody and nobody will tell you anything.
Like off season.
It's just like it's off season and it's the north of Spain. So it's like different.
Right.
Yeah.
Good advice. What are some of your favorite off-road routes in Spain?
I think I will go for, first of all, we are discovering every corner of Asturias here and it's amazing.
We've been living here for 2 or 3 months now. We were living in Madrid before. So we're also discovering our new community here.
And it's incredible. Like you only have to drive 20 minutes to be in an amazing trail. So like every day we can go to a different trail and discover corners that they have nothing like amazing by itself. But it's just such a beautiful nature, beautiful corners, remote, not explored, nobody there. And we just enjoy that more than going to the hotspots.
Yeah.
Like sure, there are like amazing places here that are more famous, but last year we spent almost 2 months just traveling around Asturias, like doing a lot of miles on gravel roads, and it was great. But if I had to recommend like specific trails to people that want to come to Spain, I would say what we call Transpirenaica, which is like Transpyrenees.
Yeah, Transpyrenees.
And it's like a route that crosses the Pyrenees Mountains. Like let's say that you're going like along the line that divides Spain and France. Mm-hmm. So you go from the Mediterranean Sea to the Cantabrico. So you can make like almost like 1,000 kilometers, which
close
I would say
700-800, I would say.
Like maybe 60-70% is gravel.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. And then there's in the south, there are a few that are very good, like Gorafe, which is a beautiful desert that you can feel like you're in Moab. And the same with Tabernas, is really nice and similar. And then if you go like a bit, this is a little bit out of Spain, but it's inside the peninsula, it's in Portugal. There is a route that goes from the south, from the tip of the south to Lisbon, that is called Costa Vicentina. And it's like, I don't know like how many kilometers, but maybe 500 kilometers or 400 kilometers just on dirt roads, but they are made of sand roads. So because it's very close to the beach. Mm-hmm. So you're driving on sand, like almost like dunes for kilometers and kilometers.
Fun.
And I would say my favorite routes were like the ones that we made peculiar in a way. For example, we've done a route in the south, in the city of Jaén, close to it, the one that I recommended for olive oil. We've done a route that went through tunnels. So the idea was to construct a railway system that would connect this city with the capital. But then the idea was abandoned. So what is left is a network of tunnels, just like tunnels are there and nothing else. So we've done a route exploring that, and it was really so much fun. It is, railway tunnels and endless fields of olive trees. It is really beautiful landscape. Yeah. And then several times we had to go to different cities for different tasks. And then we had this idea, what if we look for trails to connect, I don't know, we were connecting Madrid with Valladolid, for example, which is far.
Let's try to go all the way there.
Yeah, and we've discovered this area that we haven't seen before. And looking at our comments on YouTube, many other people didn't know were there, which is also very sandy. The ground is sand, and the landscape is reminiscent of like beaches in Portugal, for example. The plants are the same, and the beach is nowhere close. So we've had, just for this small business trip, we had the pleasure of driving in almost like sand dunes and having a lot of. So I would say that my favorite trails are the most unexpected ones.
What are you using for trail info? Like, how are you finding your trails? Is it like a Google Map situation? Do you have paper maps, or is it a wiki website?
Yeah, here it works pretty well. I think it's like when many people adopt the same app or the same website or whatever, is when it works good, because there's more people contributing. So here it works pretty well, Wikilog. So we record sometimes our routes, or we go somewhere, we just find them there. And it's been working well, especially when we travel abroad. Like sometimes we go to Italy or France, and it's like, oh, we want to go here. Let's see if it's something. And there is always something.
Nice.
And sometimes take you to very remote, unexpected places. So
we've had this experience this winter in Italy, and it really took us to places we would never even think about going, and they ended up being amazing.
What are some things that you think that travelers coming to Spain should know about or prepare themselves for?
I think one of probably the things that people don't expect is that this country can be very big. Not if you compare it like just by side with maybe states or other countries, but when you want to start exploring places and visiting places, it becomes big, because there's a lot of stuff to do, and it's kind of far from each other.
Right.
So it's not some place that you can just like, I'm going to spend a week or two, just drive around and see it. It's like, you cannot do that. So if you really want to like go deep and get the sense of this country, just prepare to spend a while here, or just like focus on one area and do that just like 2 weeks in that area, like in the north or the south, and then leave the rest for another trip, because otherwise you're just going to drive by and not see anything.
Great advice.
And I would say a little Spanish goes a long way.
Yes.
Spain it has its own culture. Not many people will be speaking English or any other language. And it always makes me so sad to think how so many visitors miss out on so much just because of this language barrier. So people are very. When I moved here, I didn't speak any Spanish, and people have been so welcoming and so supportive about my language learning journey. And I encourage anybody to just do like a few words, a few phrases. It will open so many doors for you.
I am so grateful for the tiny bit of pretty crap Spanish that I do have, but I was thinking that when we got here, or after we've been here for a couple of weeks, that I'm very grateful for that Spanish that I do have, even though it's very basic and minimal, but I've been able to communicate, which is great. And more, I would say my experience has been that in probably Mexico and Central and South America, there might be more English spoken than in Spain.
Here,
So,
as soon as you get out of Madrid, Barcelona, there's like no bar. I mean, you're not gonna find bartenders and gas station people talking to you in English. Like, no.
Yeah. And another thing that's been cool is people have just started speaking to me in Spanish.
Yeah.
And I just assume that they're like a tourist, which maybe they are, but they're being nice about it.
Yeah. So I always I was very mad when I started learning English, because it kind of like, it was hard, and I was pissed because I have to make that big effort on all countries that, it's their mother tongue. But I'm so happy now because, we get to learn another language, use Spanish because it's used everywhere in the world too. So you have two languages that are probably the most spoken in the world. Yeah. While most of the people that speak English in their mother tongue, they don't really get the effort, don't make the effort to learn other languages most of the time. So
practicar.
Yeah.
Necesito practicar mucho. One thing that it might be helpful for people to know is the eating schedule, or when things are open versus not open, siesta time, etc.
That is a good point. That is a good observation. Spanish traditions?
For us, meals are a very important part of the culture. So it's not just like fuel. So we don't understand that thing of eating a sandwich and run or do this and that, or like even like the coffee to go.
Yeah,
So
or
you
the
have to
concept of
shift.
like, oh, I eat when I'm hungry. No.
Lunch is from 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. and that's it. Everybody sit down and eat together. Okay?
And drink together.
And drink
Yeah,
together.
and drink
So
together.
you cannot order lunch at 4 because it's not lunchtime. Lunch is from 2 to 3.
And not at
That's
12.
it. No, it's not at 12. It's not ready yet. If you go to a restaurant at 12, lunch is not ready yet. Okay? You
Right.
cannot order just, can you make me no. It's just lunch is going to be served from 2 to 3.
This happened to me a lot in the beginning. In the first few years, I would come to a restaurant when I'm hungry and the chef literally goes home. There is nobody to cook for you.
Right.
Yeah. So 3:30, you can order still, but you can order meal like lunch at 4. Same with dinner. You cannot show up at dinner at 6 p.m. because it's not there yet. Dinner is from, let's say, 8 to 10, 10:30. Yeah.
And Spanish people
It's
love
normal.
to make, it is lighthearted fun, but they still like to make fun of foreigners. They love to go like, oh, we've seen British people eating dinner at 7
6.
p.m.
Or at 6, like, ha, ha, ha. Like, yeah,
Just-
we are here like, proper,
Yeah.
strong
Humans.
people, human.
Yeah.
We have dinner at 10 and then
These
we go
people
to bed
don't
at
know
1.
how things are done. Yeah.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Also,
We made it.
another thing that is peculiar about Spain is that Spain is just at the end of the time zone. So the whole
It's a
schedule,
mess. It's a mess.
the whole schedule is a bit like everything
Yeah.
is a bit later. So if you've noticed maybe that the sunrise is quite late. It's like
So
8,
late.
yeah, it's almost at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
this time of
So
the year.
dark.
So
dark.
everything is like a normal like job schedule in Europe would be a 9 to 5. Here is already 10 to 6. So everything is a bit later.
Yeah,
So
nobody
people
starts very
tend to
early.
eat very late, eat their dinner very late, and then stay up talking. And then also
Watching a
parties.
movie at 12, 1 every day, like during
Yeah.
the week.
And then if
Nobody goes to
you
bed
like
before
to,
midnight.
and then if you like to go out, parties tend to last until the morning, until like 8,
Nobody
9 in the
goes to party
morning.
before midnight
Yeah.
or 1 a.m.
Yeah. You don't
That's when
even-
you go out.
Yeah.
When is breakfast then?
Should be like 11. I would say that's like a normal breakfast time.
Breakfast?
Yeah,
So
no.
sleep
No, I
in.
mean like during the week, it's like everybody goes breakfast 8:30.
Yeah, but then you have like a second breakfast
You have
around
a second
11.
breakfast,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
it's-
call it almuerzo, and then you start at 8, and then at 11 because the meal is not until 3.
Right.
So everybody
of course,
takes
you
a
start
break.
if you start working at 8, you cannot be without eating until 3.
And
Yeah.
the breakfast,
So then
first
there's
breakfast is like coffee and a little
And a little
something.
thing, yeah, which is ridiculous,
And
but okay.
Second breakfast
And then
is
second breakfast,
usually,
you have a pincho or something, like
what is it?
tortilla,
Oh,
like a
can you
pincho tortilla with
can you tell us what that is?
pincho.
Yeah.
Is like a small piece. Pincho means like to pinch or like put a stick on something. So it's like a small piece of meat of food that they put a wood, one of those wood sticks,
like a toothpick, like a long, thicker toothpick. Yeah.
and then you just take it and eat it. It's like just
It's like in
small
one
thing,
bite.
one bite thing, and something that you eat between meals.
Gotcha.
And to get you to the big meal that we make the big meal at lunch, and it's a break. That's where they come the cliche like of the siesta, that we have a siesta.
Siesta is a real thing,
It is,
especially in the
but
south
it's
and
in
the summer.
south. The thing is like in the summer, it makes sense. In the summer, between 2 and 5 p.m., you cannot move because it's 40 something degrees. So why are you going to go, you cannot go work?
And you just ate.
So then what they do is
lunch.
they
You have to go to sleep.
They split the time schedule, like the working hours, and then they give you a few hours in the middle of the day. So you just chill on the shade. You can go to sleep or you can just chill.
Yeah.
Don't have to go to bed. And
But
then you go back to work later because it's cooler. It's
Anyways, it is typical, especially in small towns, that, for example, shops and supermarkets will close normally from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Even in winter, even when it's not hot, even if they don't go to sleep, this is the lunchtime.
Right. What's the difference between a Pinchos?
And a tapa?
Yes.
The pinch is just a bite, just something small. And the tapa is like a small plate, it's a bit bigger.
Right. Okay.
So pinch is something that you just like snack, tiny snack. Tapa is something that if you have two with a friend, then you already have lunch, It's just a bit bigger portion.
Gotcha.
And tapas, they usually come with a drink.
Yeah.
The idea is that typically,
mine haven't.
if you order,
Right.
yeah, depends on the place also, but typically what it's supposed to be, you order. So we also talked about this before. The alcohol culture in Spain is quite relaxed. So people usually don't drink to get drunk, but a lot of people drink all the time, and it's really normal to have a glass of wine with lunch or like
it's just a different drink. It just happen to have a little bit of alcohol.
So normally what you would do is order a small beer. Beers are small here, so like they come in a small glass, and you will get and then with the beer you will get tapa, so you will get something to eat with it.
Yeah, but that is also very cultural and depends a lot. It changes a lot depending on the community.
Right. Yeah.
So pinchos are in the north, like Basque Country. Tapas are things from Madrid a lot. And then the south, big tapas. South, if you go to Granada, you only have to ask for beer. They give you a piece of, so you order one beer. You order 4 beers, you already have dinner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is a typical low budget traveler tip. Like look for places that have big pinchos or, big tapas. And go there so you save on dinner.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that tip so much. I'm excited. I had a really nice chilled red wine the other day, and I was like, this is a chilled red wine. I thought they weren't supposed to chill a red wine, but it was amazing. So yeah, the food culture here is deep.
Yeah.
Amazing
Definitely.
thing. Definitely worth digging into while people are here. Thank you guys. I think that people are probably overwhelmed now with all of the information about Spain. If you're still here.
I'm sorry, guys.
No, it was so helpful. Super helpful tips, especially coming from people who live here. That's the best. So I guess we can wrap it up. And thank you again for coming on the Overland Journal podcast and sharing your experiences and all your tips on Spain. If people would like to follow you or find you on the interwebs, where should they go? Yeah,
we are everywhere as Ibérica Overland, from Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all that.
Our social media is in Spanish. However, we do speak English. So for anybody that would like any tips on Spain or anything, we do look at all of our messages and respond to all of them. So feel free. Yeah, and also many of our YouTube videos have subtitles. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah. Fantastic. Well, it's been a pleasure. I can't wait to go explore the 17 communities and the tapas and practice my Spanish with regional differences. It's very fun. So always a pleasure. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you for having us. And thank you so much to our listeners of the Overland Journal podcast tuning in for another episode. We appreciate you, and we will see you next time.